Steve Spagnuolo and the Chiefs defense gave the Ravens a lot of problems in Week 4. Let's take a look at several plays that illustrate the ways that the Ravens struggled in their loss against the Chiefs. We're going to start in the first quarter with 5:35 to go. The Ravens have a 1st and 10 at their own 26-yard line. At this point, the Ravens are up 7-3. Lamar Jackson is in shotgun. He's got 3 receivers to his right, 1 to his left. He's got Justice Hill in the backfield. Hill motions left, and Jackson takes the snap, stays in the pocket and tries to escape, and is sacked by Jerry Tillery for a loss of 3 yards. So, what were the Chiefs doing on this one? First of all, to match the Ravens personnel, the Chiefs are in a nickel, but they're in their 3-3-5 nickel. What does that mean? They have 3 down linemen. This is Charles Omenihu, Jerry Tillery, and Ashton Gelati. And they have 3 linebackers, Leo Chenal, Nick Bolton, and Drew Tranquill. Chenal is essentially playing as like a de facto edge. So they are using him. They're getting just a lighter guy on the field to help play against the mobile Lamar Jackson, but still with some pass rushing ability. And more importantly, he holds up against the run really well. He's able to shed offensive linemen as blockers. So their deep safeties on this play, they've got Jaden Hicks and Brian Cook, and they've got Shamari Connor in the slot. Trent McDuffie is over here, and this appears to be Jalen Watson on that side. So the Chiefs aren't doing anything too crazy on this play. This is actually just a fairly standard cover 2 drop. We've got the 2 deep safeties, each with a deep half. And then everybody else is dropping into a zone. They're kind of giving up the underneath. And the Ravens run a pretty good play for cover 2. So basically on the left side, they've got Hopkins running a dig route, and they've got Hill running to the flat underneath. What that does is it makes a defender commit. So Tranquill has to come commit to Hill, which leaves no underneath hook defender under this dig route. Hopkins really pops wide open on the backside here. This was a nice route combination to beat cover 2. On the other side, also pretty good. So they've got what looks like Isaiah Likely running essentially a hitch. And then that looks like Bateman, I think, who's running for the whole shot. You know, one of the big gaps in the cover 2 is between the corner and the safety on the boundary. They've got a receiver going right there. So really hitting the dig route here, good play. This is a little bit of a tighter throw if Watson drops off, but well placed toward the sideline down the field. This is an option here too. It doesn't look like, for whatever reason, Jackson was reading the field on the right side. So it looks like, for whatever reason, this one he would have, or at least should have been able to see. Maybe he didn't like it. Maybe he didn't feel confident that he'd be able to put it to a spot that made sure that if Watson dropped, he wasn't going to get to it. For whatever reason, he chose not to go to it. He did clearly look for Flowers, because Flowers isolated on Nick Bolton is, in general, a great matchup. But Bolton held his own on this one. I think for all the crap that Bolton gets about his coverage, he should get some credit on this one. He really didn't give Jackson a window to get this to Flowers whatsoever. And the other bit that I think was successful for the Chiefs, because like I said, I feel like right now, you can throw this one. If you throw it out here toward the sideline, it's hard for, or even you can get a little more depth if you want to. It's hard for Cook to get there. It's hard for Watson to get there, but it does need to be a really good throw. This isn't an easy throw. I don't think you can fault Jackson for throwing this down, or for turning that down. He didn't feel good about that throw. And I think one of the reasons why he never got to the backside dig is that we have to credit Charles Omenihu here for collapsing the pocket. I think Jackson started to feel this pressure from Omenihu. And although if he hangs in there and gets over, I think he's got the ability, he's got the time to make this throw. But this pump fake that he's doing right here looks like it's to Flowers. So he hasn't gotten back to here yet. I think he's read the right side. Maybe, honestly, the more I think about this, the more I look at it, what's probably happened is Jackson's found the matchup he wants, which fair, and he's giving Flowers a chance to get open, and Flowers just isn't able to beat Bolton. And by the time Jackson is coming off of that, I think the pressure from Omenihu is too much of a stressor, and so he ends up bailing. Now, the thing is that the Chiefs have maintained good rush lane integrity, and we should start it by saying it looks at the beginning of this clip like Bolton has told Gelati to move Tillery. You can see Bolton stepping back from over there, and Gelati's in the process of moving Tillery. So this is an example. You always hear that Nick Bolton, he's the guy that gets everybody lined up. Well, that seems to have been the case on this play. He got them lined up. Everybody kind of stayed in their rush lane, and Tillery did a good job of coming off when he noticed Jackson trying to escape and bringing him down. I mean, this is about as good as it gets from the defensive line. You want to collapse the pocket, but not get out of your rush lane, not give him a place to go. Omenihu did a great job of pushing in. Jackson tried to escape through the B gap, but Tillery was there, had it closed, and the Chiefs get a sack. But I wouldn't say, here you can see it again, the Gelati moving Tillery over a gap and getting back into his gap, and it seems to have been Bolton that initially alerted him to this. But again, look at the rush. We've got everybody staying at home. Nobody's taking a major move laterally. Everybody's staying at home. It's so important when playing Lamar Jackson is you have to limit the lanes that you give him to escape. And Tillery did a good job at once he flashed his helmet on this side, make sure he's not drifting too far toward his left, and he comes back, and right at the time he comes back is when Jackson is trying to escape that way. Great job by the Chiefs defense, but Jackson did, like I said, that dig to Hopkins. You can see Hopkins' foot right there. That was there, but Jackson just doesn't look like he got over there. It looks like he just wanted this to happen, and so that's the other person we really have to credit, Nick Bolton, for not giving Flowers a chance to get free over there and contributing to the sack. So we're going to stay right here and actually just go to the very next play. And the purpose of this to illustrate how difficult it can be to play Spagnuolo's defense. So we saw the sack by Tillery. The Ravens remain up 7-3. They've got second down and 13 now. We're at about 4:51 to go in the first quarter. Jackson's got 2 to his left, 2 to his right, operating out of the shotgun. He motions Zay Flowers into the slot, takes a snap, throws a quick out to Mark Andrews, who gets hit for a 2-yard gain by Jaden Hicks. Now, what have we got here? This time the Chiefs truly have 4 down linemen. So they're playing a nickel, but they're playing a 4-2-5 nickel. 4 down linemen, 2 linebackers, 5 defensive backs. So we've got Charles Omenihu, Chris Jones is back, Jerry Tillery and Ashton Gelati's out here again. We've got Tranquil and Bolton. And then we've got McDuffie with Hicks and Cook staying deep. Connor is still in the slot, and Jalen Watson over here. So if you notice, except for the fact that we've we've brought in Chris Jones and taken out Leo Chanel. But otherwise, it's a very similar look to last time, right? We've got the 2 deep safeties, and what did the Chiefs do out of this pre-snap look? They dropped split, and then they had everybody else here come back into zone coverage, right? Well, that's not what they do here. Same look pre-snap, second down and long, so not like a crazy down. It wouldn't be surprising to have the Chiefs have split safety and play coverage on second and long. It's a passing down. Instead, Spags goes cover 0. He sends the house. What does cover 0 mean for those uninitiated? Cover 0 just means there's not a deep safety. When you have one deep safety in the middle of the field, that's cover 1. Here they've got nobody deep. So everybody's just man-to-man, and there's nobody deep to cover. If anyone gets beat, essentially, it's off to the races, right? In cover 0, if you beat your man, you have a chance to score. if you make a catch. So here the Chiefs have no deep safety. Everybody's covered. There are 4 receivers on routes. We just have man-to-man across the board. That means 7 people are rushing the passer here. So you see Connor goes, Tranquil goes, Bolton goes. All of these guys are rushing the passer, and it's just these 4 left on their individual islands. But again, it's from the same alignment, the similar formation. The only difference is we have an extra lineman and 1 fewer linebacker as last time. And instead of playing off coverage, we're bringing the house. Jackson throws hot. So he throws against blitzes. Quarterbacks always have like a hot route, a hot read that's supposed to be their quick outlet if they're not able to escape. So Jackson reads it out. He's got his guy hot, Mark Andrews. They have a natural kind of pick, but Hicks is playing off. And Hicks does a fabulous job of, once he sees the hot throw, just driving hard on this and making a nice tackle before Andrews can gain anything after the catch. So the Chiefs blitz heavy, limit the Ravens to just a 2-yard gain, and set up a 3rd and long. And again, everybody's pretty well covered. Jackson took his hot route and immediately stuffed for a 2-yard gain. Things get diabolical with Spags. So you see the linebackers roaming around, and then they just all come. And Jackson gets it out, but look at Hicks doing such a good job. He's already coming downhill here, ready to make the tackle before Andrews can kind of turn, set his feet, and try to make a move. Takes him down, only a gain of 2. So 2 very similar pre-snap alignments, 2 very different coverages, and it leads to a 3rd and 11 for the Ravens. So we continue just later on this drive. 1:50 to go now in the first quarter. The Ravens have moved the ball down at the Chiefs' 32-yard line. They have a 1st and 10. Still up 7-3. We've got Lamar Jackson in the shotgun. He's got 2 to his left, 2 to his right. Takes a snap, drops back, rolls to his right to avoid pressure, and throws down the right sideline to Mark Andrews, and the pass is intercepted by Leo Chenal. All right, so let's take a look at what the Chiefs are doing here. The Chiefs this time are actually just in their base defense. The difference between the base defense and the nickel defense is that the base defense has just 4 defensive backs. The nickel has 5. So now our 4 defensive backs are Trent McDuffie, Brian Cook, Shamari Connor, and Jalen Watson. So Jaden Hicks is off the field. We've got Leo Chenal, Nick Bolton, and Drew Tranquil as the linebackers. And then our defensive lineman, this is hard to see for me from here, who is on that. Is that Malik Herring? I think that is Malik Herring. Can't tell for sure. This looks like Tillery, Dontari Poe, and George Karlaftis. So here we've got the Chiefs. Again, you'll notice we've got an initial alignment of 2 deep safeties. Looks like split safety coverage. The Chiefs ran that a lot against the Giants, but that's not what they're doing here. They showed 2 deep pre-snap. Connor rotates down to take a man. They're running a blitz. This time it's a cover 1 blitz. So last time there was no deep safety. This time we do have Brian Cook deep, and everybody else is playing man. So the extra rushers here are Tranquil and Bolton are coming out on the blitz. They're sending 6. Chenal's going to take Mark Andrews. McDuffie is manned up on Zay Flowers. Watson is manned up on this receiver here. This looks like Likely is there for Shamari Connor. So this time Jackson doesn't have like a quick hot option that he likes. Chenal does a good job of getting hands on Mark Andrews as he's going to the flat. This looks like a chip here from Likely as he goes to the flat on the other side. So the Ravens weren't as ready for the blitz from a hot route perspective. So Jackson is waiting here. His dump off, really, if he really had to get rid of it, would have been Likely here. But it looks like, again, Jackson wanted Flowers to start. He seems to be looking in that direction. But then Bolton comes screaming through. Because the way that the Chiefs did this blitz is they sent Tranquil through the A-gap being the gap between the center and his guard. And as Tranquil goes through, he gets picked up by Derrick Henry, and then Bolton does a slightly delayed blitz through the exact same gap. So watch Tranquil go. He gets picked up, and then here comes Bolton through the same gap. Flowers isn't open yet, and Jackson sees the pressure right here. Now he's just running for his life, runs to his right, and he likes this matchup here, which honestly, one can't really fault him for this. He's got Mark Andrews, and he's got Andrews isolated on Leo Chenal, who's not known for his coverage, and Chanel's back's turned. So when you throw it up there, you have a guy who's a good tight end, good pass catcher, going up against a player whose back's turned. And honestly, more than anything, I would just say that Leo Chenal made an amazing play on this. It's kind of hard for me to fault Lamar Jackson on this play. He made the decision to give his guy a chance against a below average coverage linebacker whose back is turned. And the below average coverage linebacker made a superb play. Look at Chenal turning over his outside shoulder. The ball is coming toward his inside. Andrews is in position. You know, how many times have you seen this happen before? Where you have a linebacker who's facing the sideline, the ball's going to come over his inside shoulder. He turns outside, and the receiver just brings a hand around and makes the catch to the inside. But Chenal manages to turn his body, get his hand out in front of Andrews, and just reel that ball in so they can grab it with his other hand. I mean, that's just an incredible play. The ball skills there were really fantastic. You see here from Jackson's perspective, here comes the blitz. And again, nicely designed. We got Tranquil in the A-gap. Henry has to step up and take that. And then Bolton comes right after. Nobody there. It looks like Jackson is waiting for Flowers to beat McDuffie. And the problem is the blitz gets there too soon. And now he comes off and he sees Andrews and he's like, let me give him a chance here. And Chenal, just the ability to turn his body and get that hand out there and just bring it into his other hand. Incredible. What a great play from Chenal. Nice timely blitz from Spags to get the Ravens off kilter, and then a great individual effort from Chenal to bring in the interception. Now we pick things up with the Ravens up 7-6 in the second quarter, 7:46 to go before halftime. They have a 2nd and 10 at their own 26-yard line. Lamar Jackson is in the shotgun. He's got 2 to his left, 2 to his right. He drops back. Bolton breaks through, and Jackson runs to his right, throws it out of bounds, but doesn't get it to the line of scrimmage. So this ends up being called intentional grounding and a loss of down and 16 yards, resulting in a 3rd and 26. So let's take a look at what the Chiefs defense is doing here. Again, the Chiefs look to be in, let's see, we'll count the defensive backs. It looks like they've got 5, so that's your nickel. But since they've got 3 linebackers, this is our 3-3-5 nickel. So they're only 3 defensive linemen. 1, 2, 3. Looks like Karlaftis, Jones, and I think that's Amenahu over there. And their 3 linebackers are Tranquil, Chenal, and Bolton. And then the 5 defensive backs, McDuffie, Hicks, Chris Roland Wallace is out here, Shamari Connor, and Jalen Watson. So, what's going on this one? The Chiefs have 5 down on the line of scrimmage. And so what the Ravens are ultimately going to do is they're planning for these 5 as potential rushers. With Chris Jones being the dangerous guy, they slide the line toward him. So essentially, they've got a tackle to account here. They've got a guard to account for Amenahu. The center and the right guard are going to double Chris Jones. That way, they've got their right tackle to account for Karlaftis, and the tight end here can account for Tranquil. So they're accounting for these 5. The problem is Spags doesn't rush those 5. He's going to rush these 3. And then he's going to bring Bolton in. And Bolton takes advantage of the slide of the line. So since the guard is sliding over to double team, because like we said, this guy has been there in case Chanel's going to block, and they slide the line over so that these two can double. So he's here for Karlaftis. He's going to go double Chris Jones, and so Bolton hits that gap. That B gap right there, and honestly, just poor pass pro here from Justice Hill. Bolton's coming through like that's your guy right there. And he just whiffs in pass pro, and Bolton comes right through unblocked. I think 70 comes in to try to help. I think that's Roger Rosengarten. But because once they realize Tranquil isn't blitzing, the tight end decides to take Karlaftis. So C70 passes him off to the tight end and tries to go himself to help close that gap. But Bolton's already screamed through. The end result, too, is that Karlaftis then sheds the tight end. And so when Jackson rolls to the right to try to get away from Bolton, Karlaftis is right there to apply that complementary pressure that's so important and to force the throwaway. So Spags with the blitz and with his initial alignment managed to confuse the Ravens' protection and get Bolton in. And on the back end, underneath that, he's just playing match coverage, or in this case, it looks like quarters behind the blitz. And, I mean, technically not a blitz. It's a simulated pressure because they bring one and drop one. So, Chanel was on the line of scrimmage and dropped back. Bolton came in. So they're still only rushing 4 and have 7 in coverage. The kind of reason why it looks like quarters is you see Watson taking all of the first receiver from the boundary. Shamar Connor's job is staying over the top of the second one. Interestingly, the actual quarters responsibilities, they rotate it. So normally you're thinking of 1, 2, 3, 4, and this would be an overhang defender. But instead, your 4 for the quarters are 1, 2, 3, 4. Watch the post-snap rotation here. They rotate, so your deep safeties are actually Roland Wallace and Connor, and Jaden Hicks is an underneath defender. Your overhang actually is Leo Chanel, who bailed out. The overhang is the guy that's responsible for first to the flat. So this looks like quarters. He's got all of this. He is going to stay over the top as the deep safety staying over the top of number 2. And then on this side, you've got Bateman going underneath, which absolves McDuffie from any responsibility, so he bails deep to try to help on anything down the field. Roland Wallace is here trying to close the post in case this turns into a post route. So they play quarters behind. Bateman does come open on the drag. They don't get out there and cover the flat. You can see Leo Chanel getting over there very late. But the blitzer is in Jackson's face, and he bails the other way. And he's got no route that's opening underneath on that side. So he literally has nowhere to go with this ball. He ends up throwing it out of bounds. If he had managed to get it past the line of scrimmage, this wouldn't have been grounding, but he needed to get it at least to the 26-yard line. Instead, he threw it out of bounds underneath and got called for grounding. So another play call from Spags that had the Ravens confused. And we can see their alignment. So again, to reiterate what we were talking about, the Chiefs have 5 down here. So the Ravens are trying to account for the contingency plan of all 5. So he's got to be ready for him. He's got to be ready for him. This is who you want to double, the most dangerous guy. So they're going to slide the line over this way. He's ready for him. He's ready for him. Now the problem for them is he bails. So suddenly you've got it set up so that the line has slid over here, and there are 4. You essentially got 4 on 2. and you've got 2-on-2 here, but he bails, so it's really 2-on-1. So 2-on-1 here, 4-on-2 here. Once the guard has committed over here, then Bolton is going to come through. And again, the person who messes up here is the running back. The running back, this should be you in pass pro right there. But he oversteps and Bolton cuts right by him, straight whiff, and you got a free rusher. It's really unfortunate from the Ravens' protection. They had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to block 4, and the Chiefs got a free rusher. It's just the way that Spags gets things done. And the Chiefs go into quarters on the back end, and they've got Jackson running for his life, throwing it out of bounds well short of the first down marker, or of the line of scrimmage, so he gets a grounding penalty. Now we pick things up with the Chiefs up 13-7 with 3:01 to go in the first half, and the Ravens have a 4th and 1 at their own 41-yard line. Lamar Jackson is in the shotgun. He's got 1 to his right, 3 to his left. Takes the snap, immediately has pressure, throws down the right sideline out of bounds, incomplete, and the Chiefs take over on downs. So, what happened on this play? Again, Spags has all kinds of chaos going. He's got his 2 safeties deep, but ultimately he runs another cover 0 blitz. So he's going to end up bringing Connor from the slot. He's going to bring Nick Bolton in the A-gap again. And then everybody else is going to be manned up. So we got man coverage here. Since Connor blitzes, we actually have the 2 safeties coming over to man up over here. So they've got a lot of ground to cover. And then we got man to man. And then Tranquil has the running back. So again, the Chiefs are able to play with the assignments of the pass protection here, and then ultimately not accounted for. This time the Chiefs get 2 free runners. So they get Connor coming off the edge, which is he's not accounted for at all in the pass protection. The Ravens slide, basically they're sending these 3 to the left and these to the right. So you essentially have the tackle who's there for Karlaftis. They actually leave Chris Jones one-on-one here. I'm surprised they slid as they did. And they've got the guard and the center is helping the guard out with Derek Nottie. And then the tackle has Charles Omenihu. They don't appear to account for the chance of Nick Bolton blitzing through the A-gap, which he does, and so the C's part for him. And since the back is not involved in pass protection, there is nobody to help Lamar out here. He's just got Nick Bolton screaming through the A-gap here. Like we said, Connor was not accounted for in the pass protection scheme either, or the pass protection plan either. So he is coming off the edge. Bolton's coming through the A-gap, 2 free runners. And then Karlaftis is one-on-one with the tackle, and he takes a wide rush. And as Jackson drifts away from pressure, he also gets a free run. So Jackson essentially has 3 guys coming, flying in straight at him as he's trying to navigate what's going on behind. Now, it's unfortunate for him. What he wants is this concept on the right. So what they're doing is they're having DeAndre Hopkins run a slant, and they are anticipating man coverage, and the ideal is for Hopkins' slant to pick off Drew Tranquil. They know Tranquil is responsible for the running back. What they want is the slant to come, Tranquil to have to try to navigate through it, and then they've got Justice Hill running the wheel behind it, so hoping to bust a big one down the sideline here. But Tranquil does such a good job of navigating traffic, he's not going to have any issue whatsoever with getting caught up under the slant. So there goes the slant. Tranquil stays capped over the top of the wheel, and Jackson has nothing to do on this side. So this was supposed to stop Tranquil from getting to the sideline, and they're hoping to hit a huge gain here down the sideline, maybe even touchdown from this spot. It is a shame for the Ravens. I mean, to me, it's a wonderful thing, but it's a shame that Jackson didn't look to the left, because he's got a slant wide open right here as the Chiefs are trying to come over to cover ground. But Jackson's progressions were clearly on the right side. He was supposed to look for the slant wheel. He never had time to come back to the other side of the field. The rush was crazy. He ended up throwing it. For him, you would hope you could at least get this ball in bounds and give somebody a chance rather than just throw it away completely, but wasn't able to give Hill a chance at this one. So again, looking at the protection, what the Ravens do is they slide this part of the line left, and then you got one-on-one. Again, on a 4th and 1, I'm not really sure why you decide to keep Chris Jones one-on-one. You would have thought that they would leave Noddy one-on-one, but for whatever reason, that was their decision. And they didn't account for Bolton. Bolton does a good job of disguising his blitz right until the end, right before the snap. They're not ready for him. There's no back there to help out. 77 tries. And look at Chris Jones. When he sees Bolton screaming through, he's worried about the Lamar Jackson scramble, so he already loops around to get ready in case Jackson's trying to escape here to get anything with his legs. But Karlaftis did a great job of coming. This is the second time that Bolton has caused Jackson to drift off his spot, and Karlaftis had a good enough rush to make sure he could be the complementary rusher so that Jackson had nowhere to go. You saw Connor coming off the edge here too, but you can see Jackson's looking right the whole time. That's the initial progression. So you never saw that slant come open on the left side, and never had the opportunity to try to convert it in that direction. Again, Spags is able to confuse the Ravens' protection and get a big stop. We'll pick things up with 1:27 to go in the first half. The Ravens have a 3rd and 1 at the Chiefs' about 44-yard line. Their own about 44-yard line. At this point, the Chiefs are up 20-7. Lamar has 3 to his right, 1 to his left. He's in the shotgun. Hill motions to the right. He steps up, fumbles the football, and it's recovered by Kansas City for a big turnover. So let's take a look at what the Chiefs were doing here. This time the Chiefs come out in their nickel, but they've switched things up a little bit personnel-wise. So typically they had been running the nickel with 3 safeties, Shamari Connor, Brian Cook, and Jaden Hicks. This time, Jaden Hicks is out, and they bring in Noel Williams to play outside corner. So what that allows them to do then, they have Jalen Watson and Noel Williams outside, and Trent McDuffie can kick into the slot. The deep safeties here are Brian Cook and Shamari Connor. The linebackers are Drew Tranquil and Nick Bolton. And we've got that 3-3-5 again. We also have Leo Chanel, the 3rd linebacker here. So only 3 down defensive linemen. That's George Karlaftis, Chris Jones, and Charles Omenihu. So here, that's a huge advantage the Chiefs can play. This is a 3rd and 1. You're really worried about the run, but they can get that extra linebacker on the field. They don't feel the need to have 4 defensive linemen, which can be very helpful for them in these situations. So what they end up running here is they end up kind of dropping back into coverage and really just rushing 4. So as we've seen, they've shown a lot of different looks, but pre-snap they're showing a lot of 2 high safety, and that's the case here. So you can see how confusing it has been to navigate. We've seen 2 high safety mean 2 high safeties. We've seen 2 high safeties mean cover 0. We've seen 2 high safeties mean a cover 1 blitz. And in this situation, we see 2 high safeties leads to, again, 1 deep, but this time no blitz. We just have 4 rushing. And this was an example of, they talked about this on the broadcast a lot. This was really not a 4 rushing. We've got 3 rushing and Leo Chanel essentially playing a spy. So if you see Chanel, he's just waiting back and waiting to see if Lamar is going to run and being ready to respond to that. But the actual coverage that the Chiefs run It's a kind of man-match combination. It's not straight quarters, although there are a lot of principles here, especially on the Chiefs' right side that are like quarters. You see when we've got the underneath drag route, Noel Williams bails. When Mark Andrews heads to the flat, Trent McDuffie goes to take that. On this side, though, we don't have a deep safety on the right side here. Here it's just a little bit, Jalen Watson is covering the number one wide receiver, but as Andrews comes through, he's just passed along underneath, and then Brian Cook is the one that stays up on top of the number two from that side. So the Chiefs playing a man-match concept. The Ravens are running two underneath drag routes. Then they've got the post, and then they've got behind that the dig route from Bateman. So got Flowers running the post, and it looks like that might have been the one that the Chiefs that Jackson wanted. It looks like he's looking down here because he's got Hopkins here. He's not really interested in that one underneath. There is the worry Hopkins is going to run right into. Sorry, that's not Hopkins. That's 16. Run into Tranquil's zone, but ideally for him, if he sits here and tries to make a catch, we're just talking 3rd and 1 at this point. But Jackson drops back and doesn't like what he sees. I got to give credit to Bolton doing a good job of getting underneath this over route from Zay Flowers, and then Noel Williams, since his man had gone underneath, he's going to drop back as well. But Bolton did a good job of taking that one away. And the Chiefs just kind of collapsed. Chris Jones here did a good job of getting pressure. He actually gets held on this play. The Chiefs ended up declining it. But as he wins quickly, he gets held. And then Chanel does a good job as a spy of being a deterrent. He gets to this side. Jackson tries to come back behind his center, and he runs into his center, which is what forces the fumble. And Drew Tranquil is able to climb on it. So again, a different coverage look out of the same pre-snap situation. This time, only really rushing 3, but Chris Jones' early win and drawing the holding penalty, which, like we said, was declined, but still, his early win broke up this play very quickly and didn't give Lamar a chance to kind of read through his progressions. And, he would have had Bateman down the field here. This would have been a possibility if 16 sat, but it was really Chris Jones' quick win that got things going for the Chiefs, got Lamar off his spot and trying to run. And then Leo Chanel's good work as a spy here, being ready for the two-way go when Lamar came this way. Chanel mirrored, and then Lamar tried to sneak by his center and couldn't get past him, ultimately fumbling and giving the Chiefs another possession. Now, from this standpoint, you can see Chris Jones' rush because, like we said, that's what really prevented Lamar from getting anything done. He's just so strong with his hands about using a push-pull here. And then right there is where the hold gets called as the guard goes around his hips. You can see the ref throwing his flag. Lamar bails, and then Chanel is the one here who manages to stay within himself, make sure not to let Lamar go. The biggest mistake that a lot of defenders make, the hardest thing about defending Lamar, is that he'll get you to commit, and then he's so agile he'll go back the other way. So Chanel does a good job of not over and committing. Lamar runs into his man, fumbles the ball. Tranquil is there to collect it for a big turnover for the Chiefs. We'll pick things up with the Ravens down 27-10. They have a 3rd and 3 at the Chiefs' 12-yard line with about 8:10 to go in the third quarter. Lamar Jackson is in the shotgun. He's got 3 to his right, 1 to his left. Justice Hill in the backfield with him. Takes the snap, drops back. As the pocket collapses, he tries to escape, and he's sacked for a loss of about 2 yards. So let's see what Spags had cooked up here. So again, the Chiefs are showing pre-snap 2 deep safeties. They are lined up again in the nickel. They're 3-3-5 nickel. Here's Leo Chanel. So they've got 3 linebackers, 3 down linemen. And again, in the nickel, they've got Trent McDuffie in the slot because they brought Noel Williams on and they don't have Jaden Hicks on the field for this. So out of that kind of 2 high safety look, they're really just running cover 1 man. This is a pretty simple, you've got 1 deep safety, and then Nick Bolton is your robber, the zone guy underneath. Tranquil is manned up on the running back, and you got man-to-man here, and you see the man-to-man, man-to-man, man-to-man. So if you see the Ravens route combination, they're going to get Bateman coming over at the goal line. Got Andrews coming out, and then Zay Flowers is going to run a whip route or a return route on the side. And the Chiefs end up covering it all pretty well. If you see Bateman's route's going to take him right into the safety in the middle of the field. Noel Williams has this fade on the backside covered completely. As Zay Flowers comes to cut in, Nick Bolton, the underneath defender, is there walling him off. He decides to return out, but he's got his man ready there to cover here. And then Cook does a good job over the top of Mark Andrews. So again, we've got that 4-man rush, no exotic blitz, and really it's a 3-man rush because Leo Chanel is doing his thing and playing the spy. So he's acting like he's coming rushing and he's just waiting to see what Jackson does. Again, a good job. Amenahue, we got to mention his name, and George Karlaftis do a great job collapsing the pocket here. I mean, this very much looks like what the Eagles were doing to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. I mean, the tackle is just getting walked back right to the quarterback. Lamar feels the pressure and bails. Amenahue does a great job of detaching here. Over on Karlaftis' side, we get a pretty humorous moment as the guard tries to do what I call a Trey Smith, when you peel back and just take out the defensive end that's playing against your tackle, except he whiffs entirely and just goes straight down to the ground. Poor guy. That's embarrassing. And Amenahue gives good chase. Karlaftis does a great job of peeling back from behind, and ultimately they get the sack. Again, you see it from the end zone cam. Nothing special. The Chiefs just rushing 4. And if you watched any of the film review of the Super Bowl, I know it wasn't a painful watch. It wasn't a fun watch for Chiefs fan, but this will look so familiar. This is what the Eagles were doing to the Chiefs. Just bull rush both the tackles right back into the quarterback's lap once he feels the pressure. And, Lamar had nothing, so part of this was just he had to create something. Chanel did a good job of deterring the escape over here, as did Amenahue peeling back. Here is the funny moment I was telling you about. 77's like, oh, I'm going to take a piece out of this end. And he completely misses, just whiffs and ends up right on the ground. But Karlaftis peels back really well, and as Jackson's trying to escape laterally, Karlaftis goes and gets him, takes him down for the sack. So Spagnuolo really had some good concepts and did a good job confusing the Ravens, especially their protections on some of the blitzes, and had things blanketed at other times with 4-man rush. And the Ravens just couldn't get any offense going. I think, people will recall that Lamar Jackson went out with an injury, and I think it was actually after this play that we just showed. But ultimately, at this point, it was 27-13. The Chiefs were rolling. I'm not sure that, putting any blame on Lamar's injury makes sense. The defensive injuries to the Ravens certainly played a part in how many points the Chiefs were able to score, but we'll see. The offense looked pretty good as well. So ultimately, the Chiefs' defense really did a number in a way that teams haven't been able to do against the Ravens this year. And it was quite an important and impressive performance from Spags and Co.